Okay. Success. For now.
Check in here at the church or share the services.
Sorry.
I think that was last week's, wasn't it? I don't know. Let me know if it shows up, and it should. I think I've got the notification.
It's good.
All right, for everyone joining us online this morning, thank you. We are, I don't know if winging it's the right word. We are adapting and overcoming some difficulties. So definitely thank you for joining us this morning. I'm Britt McDowell, the minister here, and we're sending out getting ready to go. The gentleman that runs our services in the back and does all the technical stuff's out today, and we weren't able to prepare. It was kind of sudden, so definitely keep Matt in your prayers. Hope for a speedy recovery, and we're trying to overcome and adapt. There we go. I think we're there. Since we got 5 people on, I bet everybody's here. So, how was your week? Better. You know, I think sometimes we can fall in the trap when we ask questions like that. You can kind of tell what somebody's naturally going to gravitate to. Are they going to be positive or, not positive to go with it? But, I have found, experience plus perception equals outcome. You experience it. How you choose to look at it determines whether it's good or bad. And so, as we go into today's sermon, keep that in mind. And so, a couple of weeks ago, at the end of the service, I said, "Hey guys, I want you to think about a need for the church, and start praying for that need. And when that need is met, tell me." Nobody's come and told me anything yet, so that's a status of the State of the Union. But I'm going to share with you, for a little pressure, a couple of the things that I have been praying for, that have been mindful for the church. Number one is the opportunity to serve. Because it's great if we have a whole bunch of people here each week. That's awesome. But that's not what we're called to do. We're supposed to be hands and feet, right? So, number one is opportunity to serve. And I don't want that to be taken the wrong way. Because for a congregation our size, I think we do a lot. And we have some very faithful, very diligent people that are on our board, that head up our, the outreaches that we do. Faithful is the word. They are doing the work. And so, by no means am I saying that somebody's not doing that. But I'm saying that we need to look for opportunities. Because if you're busy and you're doing those things, there's other opportunities. So, if you're not so busy, let's get in on that. And the second thing I've been praying for is directly tied to the first part. And that is to grow our community of Radcliff Christian. Because the more people that we have, the more we can do the first, that we can serve. That we can find those opportunities to be the hands and feet, to be the light, to be the salt. And to do those things. Now, one of my favorite Bible stories, told to me by a gentleman that was sitting around my mom's round table at her restaurant. We call that the table of knowledge. No 8-year-old boy has any business being around a bunch of grown men that come in 3 times a day to drink coffee and to share knowledge. We called it the table of knowledge, and the gentleman told me, I've heard this story, 2 different versions of it. The one guy was praying to God to win the lottery. Dear God, let me win the lottery. Drawing comes up, nothing happens. Goes to church, he's lighting candles. He's doing everything. He says, let me win the lottery. Goes on for 6 weeks straight. On the 7th week, he's sitting there, he's praying, Lord, let me win the lottery. In the loud, booming voice he hears, buy a ticket. So, I say that because we're praying for things, but are we doing the things also to help those prayers be answered? And I'm not saying that God doesn't do miracles, and I'm not saying that God doesn't just make things happen. But when we do our part, that's where that multiplying effect takes place. So, here's some things to remember. First thing is, I want to talk about why people go to church. According to some online surveys and some data and statistic gathering, the number one reason that people go to church is to feel closer to God. That makes sense. You come and you hear the word. Maybe you get instruction. You're able to worship, sing. That elevates, that makes people feel better, so they feel closer. Number two. I should say, actually, the first one was A. On my notes, that was A, so here's B. Community and belonging. How many of you have ever been at a point in your life where you didn't have somewhere to belong? I've been there. I've dealt with that. Being in a situation where it was just, I felt like it was us versus them. I was all alone. I didn't have somewhere to say, hey, I am a part of that group. Oddly enough, that hit me the hardest when I played my last college football game.
College football game?
The last time I played, when I graduated and left the team, I felt like I didn't have somewhere to belong. But shortly thereafter, I got hired to coach somewhere, so a new community I joined. I've been a part of a church, and that church decided to make some decisions. They made some decisions and made some moves, and I got left, and I didn't have a place to belong. That's how I ended up at Radcliff Christian. They went to E-Town, and Michelle and I stayed. I drove by on a Sunday morning about this time of year in 2016, and I saw the chalice and Disciples of Christ on the sign, and I said, I know some Disciples of Christ. The couple that I was thinking about was Chuck and Jana Gullo. And I said, they're fantastic people, and if that's the kind of church they go to, we should check that out. So, a couple Sundays later, Eli was at work. I think Georgia was with her mom. And so Michelle and I came. I said, hey, I found this place. I want to check it out. And she said, okay, let's go. And here we are. Didn't visit anywhere else. But I was looking for somewhere to belong, a community to be a part of. C, people belong to churches because they're looking for comfort and support. Because life's not fair. It's not easy. And believe it or not, life is a team sport. We're not designed to do it alone. So to be a part of a community where we know that if I have a need, if I have something, if I break down on the side of the road, or I have something that goes awry, that there's somebody that I trust, that cares about me, that will do what they can to help me. Now this one kind of shocked me, because the next one is, because this is not my point of life. But a lot of people go to church to provide a moral foundation for their children. In sociology, there are several different organizations that are taught to that are used to socialize people to a community or to a group of people. For children, the first group that they're a part of that begins the socialization process, that teaches them the rules, the regs, and the norms of a group of people, used to be church. They would go to church to learn how to be around other people. Sunday schools where they might learn to begin their educational process. But they start to learn that moral code that's there. And then the last one on the list, there's a lot of other ones, but these are just kind of the highlights, are personal and spiritual growth. Now this is a pointed question. Don't raise your hand, but don't be offended, but if the shoe fits, slide it on. How many of you come to church on Sunday looking to grow spiritually? That's a goal of yours. That I'm coming because I need to come so that I can grow. There's a lot of people out there that says, I've been going long enough, I know enough, and they're just happy to be here. They're here for the other reasons. When my grandmother, my mama was alive, I put her in that category. I challenged her a little bit more towards the end, as I got older, I challenged her a little more on some of her things, but I think a lot of it was she thought she had done her part and she was there. But I'm a firm believer that you're either growing or dying. To go with it. So when you think about those that list, I don't know what sticks out to you the most, but the thing that sticks out the most to me is community and belonging. And we're getting ready to be in the hardest time of the year for a lot of people. It's emotional. There's trauma that they've experienced. And they may have or may not. It may be what they have or what they've done or maybe what they haven't done. There's a lot of emotion and a lot of things that come in that really make the next 8 weeks, 10 weeks very hard. So what's that mean for us? One word. Opportunity. So after we know why people go to church, the next thing is how do they come to church? Well, easy, Britt. They get in their car and they drive. Well, or they hit somebody up for a ride. The number one way that someone will come to a church is from a personal interaction. Not an invitation, but an interaction. Chuck and Jana never invited me to their church. Never. They were my coaches, or he was my coach, she was his wife. They never hid their faith, but they never invited me to their church because they knew I was going to a church. But that personal interaction led me to this church. And most people end up at a church because of a personal interaction or a little relationship that oftentimes will then lead to the second thing is people go to a church because somebody invited them. There's invitations, there's online exploration. A lot of the people that have come to us have come because they liked what they saw online. They knew they wanted a disciples church, they knew they wanted something specific, and then they did some research and looked. And then other people come because they come to an event, they met some of us, they liked us, and then they said, hey, let's check this out. That's how that goes. And then the other reason how people come to a church is location and convenience. Well, it's close by. I can always tell when somebody's pretty committed based on the distance they are from their church. Most of the churches I've grown that I've been a part of my whole life, I've lived within 5 minutes of, or maybe 15 minutes. I had a couple of times that I lived a little further away and I was involved in a church and we commuted a little bit, but that's kind of how that goes. So, with everything that we have going on in the world today, in our country, the time of year, I said that that's an opportunity. So, leads me to, Louise probably won't know when I'm getting to the Bible stuff. I'm getting right there now, Louise. So the question is, how do we invite? And I'll tell you, how you live your life is the first part of your invitation. But in the beginning, this is how he did it. That's the title of the sermon. In the beginning, this is how he did it. So we have a guy that's a carpenter. We'll talk about that in a minute. We have a guy that's working in Galilee. He's from a town called Nazareth. You have the Sea of Galilee and the Mediterranean Ocean, and Nazareth is kind of in the middle. I didn't do my research to find out exactly how far it is, but it can't be very big. But, we know in the Bible they say nothing good comes from Galilee. So he's 30. The Bible leads us when he starts we're kind of pieced together. He's 30 when he starts his ministry. And he goes out And in Mark chapter 1, verse 16 through 20, he starts building his community. As Jesus walked beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw Simon and his brother Andrew casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Now, it doesn't say what time of day it was, but generally they fished at night or evening, so it's probably later in the day. "Come, follow me," Jesus said, "and I will send you out to fish for people," or make you fishers of men, depending on which translation you're reading from. At once they left their net and they followed him. When he had gone a little further, he saw James, the son of Zebedee, and his brother John in a boat preparing their nets. Without delay, he called them, and they left their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired men and followed him. So how did he invite? He asked. He asked them. Some would say he commanded them. Now here's my question. There's a little speculation in what we're going to talk about here. But just knowing how people are and how things work, this is kind of where I'm getting at. So Jesus is in his 30s. Most of his disciples were 18 to mid-20s. I think they think John was the youngest, and he may have actually been 16, 17. Peter was the oldest, like late 20s. And most of them were fishermen. We know that I think they think Luke was a physician, that Matthew was the tax collector. Not the tippity top of the A-list when it comes to talent and influence. But this is where we're not given a lot of the, I hate to say background, but we're not given a lot of the information. So when we look at the first four that he called, Andrew, Simon, James, and John, when we look at the first ones he called, they were fishermen. So what did that mean? It meant they more than likely worked nights. We're not going to get into hygiene, but I'm sure, can you imagine what that job smelled like? Well, first off, you're in a semi-arid region. There's probably not a lot of pleasant smells anyway, but then you're a fisherman on top of it. That's really beating the door down for the ladies. Not exactly a high-paying position, unless you own the boat, and then that was a little more prominent. Work nights, ugly hours, bad smells, and bad money. Kevin, I'm offering you a job. The hours are terrible, the money's terrible, the conditions are horrible, and you got to work nights. Are you interested?
Let's go.
So maybe what Jesus was offering wasn't that hard for them to say, hey, I'm out of here. But I think it's interesting too that we know that the sons of Zebedee, they left their dad in the boat. So maybe there was a little rebellion there to go with it, a little fringe. Maybe they wanted to get out of work. I don't know. But when you were younger, if you were involved in a family business or you were with that, what would it take for someone to get you to walk away from that? David works in a family business somewhat. What would it take for someone to show, I don't know how you and your brother get along, but what would it take for someone to come up and say, hey, follow me? And you're like, I'm out of here. Let's go. There have been times it wouldn't take much for me in our family business. Even right now, like last week, but that's another story. But something had to be there for that. And I've talked with preachers and they think that, well, he had this commanding presence. He was the Son of God. Well, if you read in Isaiah, it says that none would find him desirable. His divinity is not even a blip on the radar at this point. So how did he do it? Well, if you go to Mark chapter 6 and verse 3, Matthew 13:55, it is exactly the same thing, they're almost verbatim, word for word. And it goes, isn't this the carpenter, Mary's son? The brother of James, Joseph, Judas, and Simon? They say he's a carpenter, which is not the whole story. But from the beginning, they're questioning Jesus' qualifications. Also, at some point in time, but I don't know if it was before 30, or I'm not sure where it falls, he becomes a rabbi, or he earns the title of Rabboni, which is master teacher in the Jew, to go with that too. So I don't know if that was before the ministry started or after. Maybe arguing in the temple got him that status. I'm not sure. So at best, we have a guy that's a carpenter, or the actual word is called a tekton. That's what it says in Greek, and that means a craftsman that works with hard materials such as wood, stone, metal, not just a carpenter. But I think carpenter was the derogatory intent of that. So they were just, this is just a manual laborer. He's not skilled. So how did the craftsman have enough equity in a relationship, clout, trust, that they would leave their families and go with him? Now, granted, they weren't in the best situation. Anything might be more appealing than what they were doing. But how? And I'll challenge you, my theory, this is not biblical, this is just my theory, is they trusted him. Why would they trust him? It's simple. He was the guy that worked on their boats. They put their livelihood and their lives entrusted to him for him to do his job so they could do theirs. And I know what you're thinking now, Britt, that's some stretching. Yeah, it probably is. But what's this have to do? How's all this coming together? If Jesus was able to form his community based on trust, based on relationships, based on the conversations that he had with these folks while he was driving nails, replacing boards, maintaining the ships. Can you imagine what those conversations were like? The pre-Jesus ministry lunch philosophical questions. Maybe he drinking out of a water bottle and it became something else. There's a lot of things that could go into that. But my point being is that Jesus was aware of their situation. He knew where they were, what they were doing, what they were like, what things were going on. He had a relationship with them. So when he said it's time to go, they were ready to go. They said okay, and they left. Because he promised them, I don't know, being a fisherman doesn't sound like it, but he had to promise them something better. They had to envision that for maybe instead of just doing a job, that maybe they had a mission. Maybe they had a specific thing they wanted to do. So what's this mean for us? We're in an opportunistic season, a season of opportunity. Political situations, you turn on the news and it's crazy what's going on, and there's people that are going to be worried about being hungry. Kids, families, people with disabilities. All of that. There's that going on. There's all kinds of economic uncertainty. And then on top of that, the anxiety and everything that comes from all of that. Then on top of that, we're going into the holiday season. So that gives us an opportunity as believers to love, support, encourage, and help. In Jesus' name. The holidays are lonesome times. It's tough times financially. Food insecurity, we now have a chance that we can literally serve and show people His love. We have a chance to show up and show out. Not just for, I think sometimes we think about that when we, in my mind, it's like, oh, I'm going to go out and have a random encounter with somebody and I'm going to do something kind for them. And it go, and that's how it's going to happen. Because sometimes, like the people said about Jesus, wasn't that the carpenter from Nazareth? They knew him, they knew his family, they knew who his mama was. Sometimes we shy away from really digging in with the people that know us. We get a little uneasy because they know us. My brother-in-law gave me some pretty good grief when I told him I was taking a preaching job because he knows me. Be honest, he knows me. But at the same time, because they know us, we have access. We have the ability to know what's going on. We have the ability to, not to correct, chastise, and condemn, but to love, encourage, hold the hand, give them a shoulder to cry on, and say, hey, come be a part of us. We got a great opportunity on the 16th with our Thanksgiving meal. If everybody here invited, let's say something crazy. We got 20 folks here today. If everybody invited 5, then if everybody showed up, that'd be 100. Then go meet them. Not hard. Britt, what do we do if 120 people show up? I haven't been to a meal here at this church, so we didn't have enough food to feed 120 people. Y'all are laughing and smiling from ear to ear because you know I'm right. So let's share the love. Let's work towards finding somebody that we can bring with us for that meal. Somebody that needs a community. Somebody that doesn't have anybody. Or maybe they just have 1 or 2 people. Maybe they need more people. Because last time I checked, you could never have too many people fighting for you in your corner. We can be the hands that help, the feet that go to, and the shoulders that are used to support. Or maybe to catch some tears. And that's what Jesus called us to be. He said, they will know you are my disciples by how you love one another. So, let's do it. Let's do it in the beginning how he did it. Let's rub shoulders. Let's hold hands. Let's be the feet. And let's work towards the 16th. I would love for the 16th to be the Sunday that we've had the most people in the building that we've had. At least since I've been here. That's all 8 years, not just the new roll. Let's bow our heads and close with prayer. God of love, as followers of Christ, we pray you open our minds and our hearts as we end our services today, that you strengthen our hands for intentional service to our neighbors and deepen our compassion for all of creation. Empower us to be the faith and disciples in this place, in this world that you've called us to be, so that through us they will see you. In your Son's holy name, amen. As Louise comes up and we get ready to have our discipleship hymn, I want to thank everybody that joined us this morning online. If you're available on 5 p.m. on November 16th, come see us. Come join us. If you're afraid you don't know anybody, message me, message the page. You'll know us, so you'll have somebody to be your point of contact. For the rest of us, there's somebody that you know that needs to be here.